What do Adam Sandler's Mr. Deeds, Steven Soderbergh's Ocean's 11, and Robert Eggers' Nosferatu have in common? They're all remakes. And in my opinion, they're all remakes that succeeded not only commercially and critically, but also at standing on their own while honoring the original. And each of these films found the success in its own unique way. Mr. Deeds and Mr. Deeds Goes to Town both follow almost the exact same story of Longfellow Deeds, a part-time greeting card poet from Vermont who inherits a vast fortune from his late uncle, and the antics that ensue when Deeds travels to New York and meets a female journalist posing as a school teacher, all while the late uncle's business associates scheme to have Deeds forfeit the inheritance. Both films have similar themes about the corrupting nature of greed and the power of altruism, making them essentially the same film, just made at different times for different audiences. 2001's Ocean's 11, on the other hand, has little in common with its predecessor. Other than a few character names and the basic premise of 11 men robbing a Vegas casino, it's an entirely different film that still pays homage to what came before. And 2024's Nosferatu, like Mr. Deeds, follows essentially the same plot as the original, Dracula but not Dracula, but becomes its entirely own film by changing the themes behind the story, from the fear of the occult or the other to the repression of female sexuality. What's so impressive is how Nosferatu was able to accomplish this by making minor changes in focus to certain scenes and characters. All of this is to demonstrate that I do believe remakes can not only work, but work remarkably well even when changes are made, if they're made for the right reasons. And cashing in on nostalgia is not the right reason. Alright, let's get on with it. Hello there and welcome to this episode of BFG Reviews. As always, I want to thank everyone who's watched my previous videos, remind everyone to like, comment, and subscribe, and give an extra special thanks to anyone who's already liked, commented, or subscribed. It really means a lot, so thank you. Now, on to the review, which is...
Where is he?
He escaped. I wish for a friend.
2025's Lilo Stitch, directed by Dean Fleischer Camp and starring Maya Kealoha, Sidney Agudong, Chris Sanders, Zach Galifianakis, Billy Magnuson, and Courtney B. Vance. 2025's Lilo and Stitch follows Lilo, a lonely Hawaiian girl, as she befriends a runaway alien. While chaotic at first, Lilo's newfound friendship with the alien Stitch eventually helps her mend her fragmented family. Except the family kinda stays fragmented. But that's okay, because portal guns exist. More on that later. And before I get into my thoughts and feelings about Disney's latest attempt at recapturing the magic, I'd like to talk quickly about my thoughts and feelings about the actual magic. The original 2002 Lilo and Stitch and the franchise it spawned. And growing up, I loved Lilo and Stitch. All of it. I watched the show in its entirety and all the sequels as they came out. I even liked Stitch's Great Escape in Magic Kingdom. And when I learned the story behind that attraction, I found a deeper appreciation for it, which was similar to my experience with the original film. While I really liked Lilo and Stitch as a kid, it wasn't until I grew up a little that I find a whole new adoration for the film. Everything from the unique character designs to the beautiful watercolor backgrounds, the impeccable vocal performances, the music, the perfectly balanced humor and heart, the themes of family and finding your place. Honestly, I can't think of anything I'd change about that film.
No notes, it's perfect.
So, on to my thoughts on the 2025 remake. They're not great. The best I can say is it was fine. The story was fine, the performances were fine, the visuals were fine to pretty good, but many of the characters felt underdeveloped, and in my opinion, this film flubbed hard with its deeper themes and messages. Oh, and spoiler warning from here on out. Alright, to me, there are three main changes that severely hurt this film. Number 1, removing Gantu and making Jumba the main villain. Number 2, having Cobra Bubbles be an active CIA agent and not just a social worker. And number 3, having Nani go to college, leaving Lilo to be fostered by David and his grandmother. First, removing Gantu and Jumba being the main villain. I actually think this change could have worked if they had given it a bit more thought. The problem is not only are you removing a fan favorite and enjoyable villain in Captain Gantu, but also by not giving Jumba his redemption, the film removes some major development for both himself and Stitch. Take this scene.
626 was designed to be a monster, but now there's nothing to destroy. You see, I never gave him a greater purpose. What must it be like to have nothing? Not even memories to visit in the middle of the night.
We actually see Jumba begin to empathize with Stitch, realizing that by giving him no greater purpose, he inadvertently made Stitch's life hell. This scene allows Jumba to appear more sympathetic, foreshadowing his eventual turn. This also leads directly into the ugly duckling scene, one that is for some reason cut from the remake, thus removing Stitch's feeling of being lost, something that was a crucial part to his character journey. Without Jumba's turn, Stitch is also not able to showcase what he learned about Ohana by recruiting Jumba to help save Lilo.
Ohana means family. Family means nobody
gets left behind
or forgotten. Hey, Jumbo Kagabli!
What? That just like that? Fine. He's very persuasive.
Persuasive?
Which is a big loss given how I think that scene perfectly encapsulates both the themes and tone of the original Lilo and Stitch. But by not replacing the lost development from this change with anything meaningful, the remake just feels all the more hollow. On to the second major change. Cobra Bubbles is now an active CIA agent. This change makes no sense to me. Instead of being a social worker that simply wants what's best for Lilo, we get a federal agent that only cares about catching Stitch. When Lilo runs away before being taken from Nani, this is the animated Bubbles reaction.
Lilo! Lilo!
And all the remake's Bubbles says is, "Where is he?" referring to Stitch. Again, this completely ruins the arc the character goes through in the original. It's clear that Bubbles and Stitch do not get along. But by the end, Bubbles realizes that what's best for Lilo is Stitch being in her life. He's even the character that convinces the Grand Councilwoman to allow Stitch to remain on Earth.
Aliens are all about rules.
But in the remake, he doesn't remind Lilo of the adoption papers, nor does he convince the Grand Councilwoman to let Stitch stay. They don't even really give him a reason why he doesn't want to capture Stitch anymore, robbing him of any potential development. And somehow, he still ends up as part of the family in the end. This film does add an actual social worker to the story. She's even played by Nani's original voice actor. But she's barely a character. Her only purpose is to convince Nani to give Lilo to the foster system. Which leads us to the last major change, the one that I think hurts the film the most. Nani going to San Diego to study marine biology, and leaving Lilo to be fostered by David and his grandmother. Yeah, you heard that right. Nani willingly chooses to leave Lilo, something she was fighting against the entire runtime of the film. Now, to be fair, I can understand why some people like this change. It is a new direction. And I agree with the message this ending was going for, that pursuing your dreams or passions doesn't mean you're forgetting or leaving your family behind. If Nani's struggle in the film was whether or not to allow her neighbor to take guardianship of Lilo and not preventing the state from taking Lilo, then this ending would make more sense. You know what would also make more sense? If the new Ohana Nani was leaving Lilo with was anywhere close to the original animated Ohana. Instead of a caring ex-CIA agent turned social worker, you get an active CIA agent that seemed to only care about capturing your sister's best friend until a couple minutes ago. And instead of a pair of extraterrestrials that not only helped you rescue your sister, but also one of them is the expert in the incredibly powerful alien experiment who happens to be best friends with your sister. You get a single extraterrestrial that you only met minutes ago and has a very poor grasp on Earth customs. Also, if Nani wanted to study marine biology, why would she leave Hawaii? a place with multiple excellent marine biology programs that would be much less expensive with or without a scholarship. Even the filmmakers knew this made Nani look bad, and that's why they gave her the portal gun. That way, she's not actually leaving Lilo, because she can still see her whenever she wants. But that only ruins their new message. Now Nani didn't have to make the difficult decision to trust Lilo with this new family. Again, I do think this change could have worked if it was better integrated into the story. But it wasn't. And thanks to that, it actually feels more like Nani's story than Lilo's. She gets more development than any other character, with time dedicated to both her deferred surfing career and education. And to me, Lilo barely feels like a protagonist in this film, and is heavily toned down compared to her animated counterpart. For example, in the original, Lilo has a doll she made herself, named Scrump. She made Scrump because all the other girls had dolls, and she thought all she needed was a doll to be accepted. And when she's still rejected, even though she has Scrump, she rejects the doll, but quickly returns because Scrump is still her only friend. Even after Lilo adopts Stitch, she still freaks out when Stitch mistreats her.
No! Don't pull on her head! She's recovering from surgery!
It's not until the end of the film, after she developed a strong bond with Stitch, is Lilo able to let go of Scrump by turning her into a grenade. Scrump does show up in the remake, but they removed all her significance. Lilo didn't make her to be accepted. Instead, she made a friendship bracelet for that. And Scrump wasn't sacrificed to fend off Jumba. In fact, Lilo let herself and Stitch be captured to save her material possessions. Here's the thing. To me, all of this makes it seem like the filmmakers have a very shallow understanding of the original, like me when I was younger. And so, when they made changes, even minor ones, they didn't understand how those changes affected the story or how to properly compensate. And this last moment perfectly demonstrates this. Let's look at this interaction in the original.
What about Ohana? Dad said Ohana means family.
Notice how Stitch reacts to Nani closing the door. Up until this point, he's been treated like a criminal, a monster, and a abomination. So when he sees Lilo stand up for him, and Nani actually listen, he takes notice, starts to learn what Ohana means and what it means to be part of one. This is pivotal to the beginning of Stitch's character growth. Now let's watch the same scene in the remake.
We are not keeping this thing.
Ohana means family. Family means nobody gets left behind.
Or forgotten.
This moment is no longer used to start Stitch on his character journey. Instead, they just go for some quick comedy. Again, I do think remakes can work, even when changed, but they have to be executed properly. If the only reason behind a remake is to play on people's nostalgia and not to tell a story in any unique or interesting way, it's set up for failure. Because in the end, the Lilo and Stitch remake decided not to tell the same story with the same themes and messages like Sandler's Mr. Deeds, didn't dare to tell a wholly new story with limited iconography like Soderbergh's Ocean's 11, and couldn't care enough to commit to new themes like Eggers' Nosferatu. We're left with a nonsensical, hollow film that barely stands on its own and pales in comparison to its predecessor, and easily earns a D letter grade. Anyway, those are my thoughts on 2025's Lilo and Stitch. Let me know your thoughts on the film and what remakes you think work better than the original in the comment section down below, as well as your thoughts on my art or what other films you'd like me to review. Thanks everyone, make sure you hit that like button, and I hope you're having a kupayenaha day.
Wow!